She looked across the table, arms crossed, and said the words that froze the room. I was forced to come. In that instant, a billionaire CEO felt the night collapsing, until his little girl tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, is she my new mom?" What began as a disastrous blind date turned into a chain of moments no one expected. Spoons dropped, secrets revealed, and a single smile that changed everything. But when the world discovered who she really was, the cost of love grew higher than either of them imagined. Stay with me, because this is the story of a man who risked his empire, a woman who carried hidden scars, and a child who asked one question that no headline could ever answer. The chandeliers glowed like molten gold, spilling light across polished marble floors. Silver cutlery gleamed against white linen, the soft hum of jazz weaving through the air. Every detail whispered luxury and control. Then the door opened. A tall man in a charcoal suit stepped inside, his presence calm but commanding. At his side, a little girl clutched a worn teddy bear as if it were part of her hand. The maitre d' raised his brows for a brief moment, then quickly returned to professional neutrality. Ethan Cole bent down, adjusting his daughter's pink coat with practiced tenderness. Ready, Mia. Like a princess meeting another princess. The little girl nodded, curls bouncing, her voice no louder than a whisper. "Okay, Dad." Together they crossed the room, their steps soft against the marble. At a corner table, a young woman sat alone. Her arms were folded, her posture stiff, her gaze fixed on the city lights outside the window. Her coat was plain, too thin for the season. Her blonde hair was pulled back loosely, strands falling across her cheek. Ethan stopped at the table. His tone was polite, measured. "Good evening. I'm Ethan. Thank you for—" I was forced to come. The words landed cold, cutting through the air. She still didn't look at it. Silence followed, heavy and uncomfortable. Ethan cleared his throat, steadying himself. "I see. Then this must be a mistake." But before he could turn, Mia tugged his sleeve, wide-eyed, innocent and curious. "Daddy," she whispered. "Is she my new mommy?" The woman finally turned her head. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, then down to the little girl. Something shifted, barely noticeable, just enough to soften the sharpness in her face. Her reply came quiet, almost reluctant. "We're already here. Let her enjoy a meal." Ethan hesitated, then pulled out a chair. He sat, posture still rigid. Across the table, the woman adjusted her water glass, but said nothing more. Mia tilted her head, studying her. Then a smile spread across her lip. "You're pretty." The woman blinked, startled. For the first time that night, her lips curved upward, a small, shy smile. Ethan noticed. He always noticed. And that single smile, brief as it was, felt like the first crack in a locked door. Her name was Harper Lane, 20, 7 years old. Once a rising star at a music academy, praised for her piano playing since she was a child. Now, just another face in the city, scrubbing school floors at dawn. When her mother fell ill, Harper left the world of concert halls behind. Music could not pay for hospital bills. Cleaning could. Hymns in church could. Survival had replaced dreams. 2 weeks earlier, her aunt had given her an ultimatum. "Go on this date," she said. "Smile. Be pleasant. He has money. Maybe he'll help. Otherwise, the clinic stops treatments." Harper hated it, but she had no choice. She pulled her hair back, buttoned her one decent coat, and told herself she could endure an hour of silence, an hour of judgment. What she did not expect was a man arriving with a child at his side. Ethan Cole was a man of 2 lives. On paper, he was a billionaire, the founder of Luminex Labs, a name in every magazine. At home, he was just a father, trying to keep his daughters smiling. For 3 years he had raised Mia alone. Since the night her mother never came home from the hospital, there was no instruction manual, no business plan, only fever, shoelaces, storybooks and love, raw and relentless. He had locked his heart away, until this night. The dinner dragged, Harper stayed quiet, staring into her glass. Ethan tried to keep conversation alive for Mia's sake, though his voice carried little warmth. Then Mia's spoon slipped. It clattered against the floor, scattering bits of food across her dress. Before Ethan could move, Harper leaned forward. She picked up the spoon, wiped it clean with a napkin, and gently dabbed the stain on the child's coat. Slow down, sweetheart. No rush. It was simple. But it wasn't polite courtesy. It was instinct, the reflex of someone who had cared for others before. Ethan saw it, and it lingered. They parted ways soon after. Harper slipped into the night without a goodbye. Ethan paid the bill, guiding his daughter out of the restaurant. He expected never to see her again. But fate had other plans. The next morning, Harper walked out of a grocery store, arms heavy with discounted food wrapped in red stickers. She tucked her chin against the wind, pulling her scarf tighter. Her wallet slipped. Receipts flew into the street like torn leaves. She crouched to grab them, when a voice cut through the noise. Small, panicked. Daddy? Where are you? Harper's head shot up. Across the crowd, Mia stood frozen, clutching her teddy bear, eyes brimming with fear. Harper dropped her bags. Cans rolled into the gutter. She ran, kneeling. She placed both hands on the girl's shoulders. Hey, it's me. Remember, the lady from dinner. Mia blinked, then recognition sparked. She threw her arms around Harper's neck. You're not mean, she whispered. You smell like snow. A voice rang out, raw and desperate. Mia. Ethan appeared from around the corner, chest heaving, eyes searching until they landed on his daughter. Relief crashed over him. You found her, he breathed, his voice breaking. Thank God. Thank you. His hands hovered, unsure whether to take Mia or hold them both. Harper gently released the girl into his arms. Then she bent to pick up her scattered groceries, brushing dirt from her coat. She was ready to leave, but Mia's hand reached for hers again. Can we have cookies together? She asked, bright with hope. Harper froze. She looked at Mia, then at Ethan. There's a coffee shop just around the corner, Ethan offered. His voice carried both gratitude and hesitation. They have cookies. Good one, even by Mia's standards. Harper arched an eyebrow. Half price, like Sal. Not exactly, Ethan said, allowing the faintest smile. But I'll take care of it. She sighed. 15 minutes, that's all. The coffee shop smelled of cinnamon and warm milk. Steam fogged the window. In a corner booth, Mia munched happily while Harper and Ethan sat across from each other. Paper cups in hand, Ethan slid a fresh cup toward her. Careful, it's hot. Their fingers brushed. Harper pulled back too quickly. The cup tipped, spilling across Ethan's hand. Oh no, sorry, she gasped. She grabbed a napkin and pressed it against his skin. Her touch was brisk, but soft. Ethan studied her face as she focused on the burn, the furrow of her brow, the careful press of her hand. He hadn't felt that kind of care in years. Does it hurt? Harper asked, voice barely above a whisper. A little, Ethan said, steady but gentle. Not the worst pain I've had. Color rose in her cheek. She looked away quickly. Mia dipped her cookie in milk, crumbs scattering across the table. Daddy, I like her. Ethan chuckled. Me too. 15 minutes passed, then 20. The air between them shifted. No longer cold, but uncertain, curious. Ethan caught himself watching Harper when she wasn't looking. Harper softened each time Mia reached for her hand. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As they stepped back onto the street, Harper tightened her scarf, ready to vanish into the city again. Ethan held Mia's hand, caught between gratitude and something he couldn't yet name. Then Mia turned, cookie crumbs still on her cheek. Her voice carried a truth too simple to ignore. Daddy, I think she's the one. Ethan laughed softly, brushing it aside. But the words stuck like a seed that would grow into choices neither of them could escape. Because this was only the beginning. The words lingered. Daddy, I think she's the one. Ethan chuckled at his daughter's innocence. But the thought refused to fade. Sometimes children see what adults try to ignore. That weekend, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text. Harper Lane. The message was short. Your daughter left her drawing in my bag. Should I drop it off? Ethan typed back before he could stop himself. Or you could bring it to her art class this Saturday. She'll be thrilled. Harper stared at the screen for a long time before replying with one word. Fine. The community center was buzzing with chatter. Long tables were covered with paper, jars of water, and boxes of crayon. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like spark. Mia spotted Harper the moment she walked in. The little girl ran across the room, dragging her toward the table. You came. Daddy said maybe, but I knew you would. Harper smiled, brushing a curl from Mia's face. I couldn't let your drawing stay lost. Could I? She set the paper down gently, as if it were a treasure. Ethan pretended to focus on the supplies, sneaking glances every few seconds. When he picked up a crayon, Harper nudged him with her elbow. Blue. Really? She loves pink. Mia nodded firmly, her tiny hands already scribbling with a pink crayon. Ethan gave in with mock defeat. Fine. Pink it is. Laughter rose easily, filling the space between them. The following weekend brought another surprise. A cooking contest at the local park. Families gathered around folding tables, laughter floating over sizzling pans. Ethan signed up without thinking, confident in his skill. 5 minutes in, he nearly burned the onions and cracked an egg straight onto the pavement. Step aside, Harper said, sliding in with a smirk. You're about to set off the fire alarm. She showed him how to stir slowly, how to taste before seasoning, how to fold ingredients like tucking in a blanket. At one point, flour exploded across the table. Ethan sneezed violently, dusting his suit with white powder. Harper doubled over laughing, clutching her side. It wasn't the kind of laugh she gave out of politeness. It was open, unguarded, and it struck Ethan harder than he expected. One rainy afternoon, the three of them ended up stranded inside a public library. Shelves towered around them, the air thick with the scent of old pages. Story time, Mia announced, pulling a book from the children's section. She shoved it toward Ethan. Read. Ethan reached for the book, but Mia tugged Harper's sleeve instead. No, you. Harper hesitated, then sat cross-legged beside the girl. Her voice softened as she read, every word slow and rhythmic. Her hand rested lightly on Mia's hair, stroking gently. Ethan didn't move. He barely breathed. Watching them felt like watching a dream he'd never dared to want. It was in the little things that Harper revealed herself. The way she tied Mia's shoelace in the park, kneeling without hesitation. The way she scolded Ethan for forgetting Mia's water bottle at the playground. The way her eyes softened whenever Mia giggled. One evening, as they left the library, Ethan tugged at his collar. A button had come loose. He muttered under his breath. Frustrated. Hold still, Harper said, stepping closer. Her fingers brushed over his chest as she fastened him. They froze, inches apart, breath caught between them. 1 second, 2. Then she lowered her hand and walked ahead with Mia. Ethan stayed behind, smiling to himself, though he didn't mean to. Technology added its own mischief. Mia had recently discovered how to FaceTime on her father's phone. She loved calling Harper when she was bored, which lately was often. One Tuesday evening, Ethan was cooking while Mia played with stuffed animals. His phone buzzed. By the time he reached it, the call had already connected. On the screen, Harper appeared by accident, wrapped in a towel, hair damp, cheeks flushed with surprise. She gasped and ducked out of frame. Ethan immediately turned his head toward the ceiling, his ears burning red. Mia, what did you press? From off. Screen. Harper's voice trembled. You could have just hung up. I didn't want her to think she did something wrong. Ethan answered, still staring at the light fixture. There was a beat of silence. Then, unexpectedly, laughter, soft, awkward, but real. Give me 3 minutes, Harper said, her voice steadier now. Then I'll call back, fully dressed. Good plan, Ethan replied, smiling without looking at the screen. That night, neither of them forgot the moment. For Harper, it was becoming harder to keep her walls intact. She had built them high, layer after layer, out of necessity. But Mia had a way of climbing over them with nothing more than a smile. One evening, after a long day, Harper opened her worn notebook. Her pen hovered, then scratched across the page. Why does my heart skip when he says nothing at all? Why do I miss them more than I should? She closed the book quickly, as if the sound of the pages could betray her. Across town, Ethan stood on his balcony, city lights glittering beneath him. His mind drifted back to Harper's laughter in the park, her voice in the library, her hand brushing his. He realized something dangerous. He missed her when she wasn't there. The weeks turned into a rhythm. Art classes, park outings, quiet evenings in the library. Small rituals that felt like family. But beneath the laughter, shadows lingered. Ethan carried the weight of his company on his shoulders. The constant pressure of investors and board members. Harper carried secrets of her own. A past she never mentioned. Bills she never spoke of. The fragile peace couldn't last forever. One night, as Mia drifted to sleep, Ethan sat by her bedside. She mumbled through half a closed eye. "Daddy, don't let her go." His chest tightened. He smoothed her hair and whispered back, "I'll try." He meant it, but promises are easy in the dark, harder in the daylight, when the world is watching. The laughter, the art classes, the nights in the library. Those moments wove together like threads of a family. But threads that delicate can unravel with the slightest pull. The world was about to watch more closely than ever. Because soon, a camera lens would capture what they thought was private. And one photo would ignite a storm, powerful enough to shatter everything they'd built. The peace didn't last. Early one morning, Ethan walked into his office to find his assistant pale. Clutching a tablet, "Sir, you need to see this." On the screen, a headline screamed, "Tech CEO spotted with mystery woman and child at City Park." Beneath it, a grainy photograph showed Ethan, Mia, and Harper, her laugh frozen midair. His arm closed behind them. Within hours, phones rang non-stop. Investors demanded explanation. Board members whispered about reputations and risk. Reporters gathered at the lobby door, cameras ready. Ethan shut his laptop with a snap. His jaw clenched, but his voice was calm. "Cancel my meeting. Take Mia home. I'll handle the rest." That night, a knock echoed through his apartment. Not Harper, not a friend. It was Victoria Hale, Mia's grandmother. She swept inside with heels clicking. Perfume sharp, eyes colder than steel. "I read the article," she said flatly. So did the courts. So did everyone who mattered. Ethan stood tall, arms crossed. "She's kind. She's good for Mia. She is not your wife," Victoria snapped. "She is not Mia's mother. She scrubs classrooms for a living, and now she's a liability. If this continues, I will file for custody." The words landed heavier than any boardroom threat. Ethan's fists tightened, but he forced his voice steady. "Over my dead body." Victoria's heels echoed again as she left. Her final words sharp as glass. "You're a public figure. Act like one." When Ethan returned to the kitchen, his heart sank. Harper's shoes by the door were gone. So was her toothbrush. On the counter, a folded note in slanted handwriting. "You're a good man, but I don't belong in your world. Please take care of Mia. Tell her I'm sorry." He read it twice, then a third time, the paper trembling in his hand. That night, Mia looked up at him with puffy eyes. "Where's Harper?" She promised cookies. Ethan knelt, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eye. She had to go somewhere. "Sweetheart, but she'll be back." But Harper didn't come back. Not the next day. Not the one after. Ethan searched. He called, emailed, even drove past her old apartment. No one had seen her. Not at the school. Not at the church. Not at the grocery store where she bought bruised fruit. Days blurred together. Mia grew quiet. She pushed her favorite cookies aside. At night, she cried into her teddy bear. One evening, Ethan tucked her into bed. she whispered through tears. Did she leave because of me? The question shattered him. He gathered her close, his voice breaking. No, baby, never because of you. Mia touched the tear on his cheek. It's okay. Daddy, you can cry too. A week later, Mia spiked a fever. Ethan rushed her to the hospital, holding her small hand in his. Hours dragged in the waiting room, every minute heavier than the last. When he finally stepped out to get water, he returned to find someone sitting beside Mia's bed. Harper, her coat damp, hair messy, eyes tired but burning with worry. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. But I couldn't stay away. Mia stirred, blinking up at her. You came back, she murmured weakly. A faint smile touched her lips before she drifted back to sleep. Ethan stood frozen, 1,000 words caught in his throat. But when he blinked, Harper was already gone, leaving only the faint scent of soap on the pillow. The pressure outside tightened. Headlines multiplied. Blind compassion or reckless heart. Is this the end for Luminex? Whispers of resignation floated in boardrooms. Shares trembled on the market. Investors demanded a public statement. Ethan knew silence would destroy him. But words, if chosen wrong, could destroy Harper. Meanwhile, a video surfaced online. A child at a subway piano. A young woman beside her, guiding tiny hands across worn keys. The melody simple, sweet, but magnetic. Comments flooded in. I saw her clean classroom. Now I see her teach music. She's pure kindness. Another, if that's the woman in the photo, she deserves more than judgment. The clip went viral. The internet began to side with Harper, not because of Ethan, but because of who she was when no one was looking. That same night, Ethan sat with Brandon Pierce, his oldest friend and investor. If you stay quiet, others will write the story for you, Brandon warned. You've always fought for what matters. Why stop now? Ethan exhaled slowly. Because this isn't just me. This is Harper. This is Mia. Exactly, Brandon said, leaning forward. So tell the world the truth, not what they expect, what they need to hear. Ethan looked out over the city, neon lights reflecting in his eye. He knew Brandon was right. Tomorrow, everything would change. The press conference was set for 10 a.m. By 9, the auditorium was full. Cameras lined every row. Journalists murmured. Pens poised. Board members stood stiff against the wall, waiting to see if their CEO would crumble. Ethan stepped onto the stage, shoulders square, eyes steady. One microphone waited. He gripped the edges of the podium, breath slow, heartbeat loud. Good morning, he began. You're expecting denial, apology, maybe even resignation. He paused, his voice growing stronger. I have none of those. Murmurs rippled across the room. Cameras clicked. Ethan raised his gaze, sweeping the crowd. This is not a scandal. This is my life. He inhaled, his tone sharpening with conviction. Yet, I have been seen with a woman who cleans classrooms by day and plays piano by night. She doesn't carry a business card. She carries something far rarer. Kindness, strength, integrity. The audience fell silent. My daughter lost her mother the day she was born. For 3 years, I believed success could fill that void. But Harper gave her something I never could. A place to feel safe, a place to be seen. His voice trembled once, then steadied again. So no, I won't apologize. Not for love, not for family, not for the truth. At the very back, unnoticed by most, Harper stood frozen near the exit. She had come only to return his house key, the chain tucked in her pocket. But when she heard his voice, she couldn't leave. Her hands shook, clutching a grocery bag. Cans of soup and pasta rattled softly as she listened. Her eyes filled with tears she couldn't hide. And then a small figure darted out from behind the curtain, pink dress fluttering, curls bouncing. Mia. The child spotted Harper instantly. She ran, arms outstretched. Mommy. The grocery bag dropped with a dull thud as Harper knelt, catching her, Tears streamed freely as she whispered, "I missed you too." Ethan stepped down from the stage, his voice raw. "I don't care what they think. I care about what we feel and what Mia feels." His eyes locked with Harper's. "We need you." The room erupted in applause. But applause couldn't silence the storm brewing beyond those walls. Because while Ethan had chosen love in front of the world, powerful enemies were still waiting in the shadows. And their next move would be even more dangerous. The applause thundered through the auditorium, echoing off the walls like a wave that refused to end. Ethan stood at the center, Harper kneeling with Mia in her arms. A picture of family painted in front of hundreds of cameras. But behind the flash bulbs and clapping hands, enemies were already sharpening their knife. In a glass tower across town, Nolan Price watched the live broadcast with clenched teeth. CEO of Apexian Systems, Ethan's fiercest rival, Nolan had engineered the leak that started this storm. Now, with Ethan turning the scandal into a public victory, Nolan's plan was crumbling. Pull the second file. Nolan barked into the phone. "If Cole wants war, we'll give him one." Back at Luminex headquarters, Ethan sat with his communications director, Tessa Reed. She slid a laptop across the table. "We traced the leak," she said. "It wasn't a journalist. It was Apexian. They paid for photos. They paid for spin." Ethan leaned back, jaw tight. "You're telling me Nolan bought the story?" Tessa nodded. "And he isn't finished. He has more. Email, private footage, anything he can twist." Brandon Pierce, Ethan's longtime friend, slammed his hand against the table. "Then let's beat him to it. Show the world the truth before he does." Ethan's eyes narrowed. No more silence. Not this time. That night, Harper sat quietly in Ethan's living room, Mia asleep upstairs, her hands twisted in her lap, nerves spilling into her voice. "You stood on a stage today and chose me. Do you know what that means for your company? For your daughter?" Ethan sat beside her, leaning forward. "I know exactly what it means. It means I'm finally telling the truth." She looked at him, doubt flickering in her eyes. "What if I'm not strong enough for this world of yours?" His reply came low. "Steady. Then I'll bend my world until it fits you, and I'll never let anyone take you from Mia again." For the first time, Harper's hands stilled. 2 days later, another press conference was called, but this one by Nolan. He strutted onto a stage, presenting slides of evidence against Ethan, blurred photos. Read email, exaggerated claims. The room buzzed with tension, reporters eating up every word. But before Nolan could deliver his final blow, screens behind him flickered. Tessa's team had hacked the feed. A new video played, footage of Nolan himself at a rooftop dinner, toasting a journalist while bragging about planting the perfect scandal. The room gasped. Reporters leaned forward. Nolan froze, sweat beading at his temple. Then Ethan's voice filled the speakers. Pre-recorded but sharp. "I don't fight with lie. I fight with proof. And the proof is here." The press erupted into chaos. Cameras turned from Nolan to the screen, capturing every second of his downfall. That evening, Ethan returned home exhausted. He found Harper on the balcony, arms wrapped around herself as she stared into the city lights. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "Why risk everything for someone who has nothing?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Because what you carry is worth more than any fortune. Kindness, strength, love. That's what Mia sees. That's what I see." Her eyes shimmered, but she looked away. "And if your board doesn't agree, then they'll learn," Ethan said firmly, "or they'll leave." The next morning, a black car pulled up in front of Ethan's home. Victoria Hale stepped out, heels clicking against the pavement, but her expression was softer this time, her eyes carrying something heavier than judgment. She entered the house without waiting, as always. But instead of launching into demands, she paused in the doorway of Mia's room. The little girl sat on the floor with Harper, carefully pressing stickers onto a toy piano. Victoria's face softened, her voice breaking. "She looks happy." Ethan stepped behind her. "She is," for the first time in years, Victoria turned, lips tight, but her eyes moist. I came here ready to fight for custody, ready to drag you through court. But after today, I see. Maybe she doesn't need another judge in her life. Maybe she needs exactly this. For once. Ethan was speechless. That evening, Harper found herself alone with Victoria in the kitchen. The older woman studied her, cold veneer cracking just slightly. You love her, don't you? Harper met her gaze without flinching. With everything I have. Victoria's jaw tightened, then relaxed. Then prove me wrong. Prove to me this isn't just a chapter, that you won't walk away when it gets hard. Harper's reply was steady. I've never walked away from anyone I love. Something shifted in Victoria's eye. For the first time, there was respect. By the weekend, the city had changed its tune. The subway video of Harper teaching piano had merged with footage of Nolan's exposure. Headlines flipped, from scandal to inspiration. The CEO who chose love. Ethan's phone buzzed with messages of support from employees, investors, even strangers, but he ignored them all, focusing instead on the quiet sound of Harper's laughter drifting from the garden, where Mia showed her how to play a simple tune. That night, Ethan stood by the window, looking out at the skyline. Harper joined him, leaning lightly against his shoulder. What happens now? She asked softly. He placed his hand over hers. Now, we build, not just a company, not just a life, a family. She smiled faintly, resting her head against him. For the first time, the future didn't feel impossible. But the fight wasn't over. Public opinion had shifted, enemies had fallen, and even Victoria's walls had begun to crack. Yet the deepest test still waited, not in boardrooms or headlines, but in the quiet choices of the heart. And soon, Ethan would discover that love itself can demand the bravest risk of all. The city eventually quieted. Headlines moved on. Investors calmed. And even the board learned to embrace the story Ethan had told the world. But inside his home, something far greater was happening. The walls that once echoed with silence were now alive with laughter. Piano notes, and the steady rhythm of belonging. A year passed. Seasons shifted. In the backyard, what had once been clipped hedges and sterile grass had transformed into a living garden. Wild lavender curled against the fence. Sunflowers tilted toward the sky, and painted stones marked with Mia's handprints lined the path. In the center stood a wooden bench beneath a cherry blossom tree. Harper sat there with Mia on her lap, guiding small fingers across a child-sized keyboard. Gentle, Harper whispered. Like you're telling a secret. Mia pressed the keys, each note rising soft and clear. She stuck out her tongue in concentration, and Harper smiled, brushing a curl from her forehead. From the kitchen window, Ethan watched. His heart swelled at the sight, two halves of his world becoming whole together. He stepped outside, carrying a cake decorated with strawberries and sugar flowers Mia had chosen herself. As he set the cake on the table, Harper looked up. What's the occasion? She asked playfully. Ethan crouched beside them, eyes glinting with something deeper. A celebration. For us. Then he reached into his pocket. But instead of opening the velvet box himself, he placed it into Mia's tiny hand. He leaned close, whispering in her ear. Her eyes lit up, bright as morning. She turned to Harper, opening her palm to reveal the delicate silver ring. With the innocence of truth, she said, "Will you stay with us forever?" Harper froze, breath catching in her throat. Tears welled, spilling before she could stop them. Her hand flew to her mouth, a laugh breaking through the sob. "The first night, I was forced to come," she whispered, voice trembling. "But today, I choose to stay." Ethan's voice broke as he wrapped his arms around them both. Then stay. Not just for her. For me. Mia squealed with joy, planting a sticky kiss on Harper's cheek. Now you're my forever mommy. The moment should have ended there, perfect in its simplicity. But fate wanted more. As they cut the cake, Victoria Hale appeared at the garden gate. Her steps were slower now, her eyes less sharp, softened by something closer to peace. For a moment, Harper stiffened, but Victoria raised a hand gently. "I didn't come to fight," she said. "I came to return something." From her purse, she pulled a weathered photograph, Ella, Ethan's late wife, holding a newborn Mia. Victoria's lips trembled. She wanted her daughter to grow up loved, not perfect. "I forgot that for a while." She placed the photo in Harper's hand. "Thank you for giving her what I couldn't." Harper's tears blurred the image, but she nodded silently. For the first time, the two women shared not opposition, but understanding. That night, after the garden quieted, Ethan found Harper alone at the piano. Her fingers danced lightly over the key, playing a melody he didn't recognize. "What's that?" he asked softly. "A song I wrote," she replied. "It's called Home." Ethan leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "Play it again. I want to remember every note." She did, and when she finished, he walked to her, pulling her into his arms. "You've given us more than music. You've given us back our lives." Weeks later, Harper took the stage at a small community hall. Not Carnegie, not a concert hall, but a gathering of neighbors, friends, and strangers who had seen her subway video online. Mia sat in the front row, legs swinging, clutching her teddy bear. Ethan sat beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. Harper placed her fingers on the keys. She looked out at the faces before her, ordinary people, not critics, not investors, and she began to play. The notes filled the hall, rising and falling like breath, gentle, strong, unpolished but real. By the time the last chord faded, the audience was on its feet, clapping not for fame, but for courage. Backstage, Mia ran into her arms. "You sounded like the movie," she declared. Harper laughed through tears. Ethan kissed her temple, whispering, "No." She sounded like us. One evening, Harper tucked Mia into bed. The little girl clutched her teddy and looked up. "Mommy, are you going to be here when I wake up?" Harper's throat tightened. She stroked Mia's hair and whispered, "Every morning, always." From the doorway, Ethan watched, his chest heavy with gratitude. He had lost so much once, but now he had something even stronger than what he thought he'd never find. A family. On the balcony later, Harper leaned against him. "Do you ever wonder if all of this was too much? The scandal, the fight, the risk." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "Every day. And every day I'd choose it again. Because love isn't safe, but it's the only thing worth risking everything for." She closed her eyes, smiling. "Then let's never stop choosing it." The garden below shimmered with fairy light, blossoms swaying in the night breeze. From the open window came the faint sound of Mia's laughter in her dreams. For a long time, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The silence was no longer empty, it was full. The story had begun, with Harper being forced into a date she never wanted. It ended with her choosing the very life she once believed she couldn't have. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with perfection. Sometimes it arrives in chaos, through scandal, through fire. But when it stays, when it endures, that is when it becomes home. And for Ethan, Harper, and Mia, home was not a place. It was the heartbeat they shared. Together, forever. Thank you for spending your time with this story. Every moment you've listened means more than you know. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in love, family, and second chances. Your support keeps these stories alive, and I'm grateful you're here with me. Until next time, may your days be filled with kindness, warmth, and a little bit of hope.